Hey guys, welcome to the Cultivate Her podcast. This is a podcast where you are challenged to activate your mind and walk in your purpose. Okay. Now, I'm here with my girl, Jen Boo. Say what's up, girl.
What's going on, good people?
And if y'all don't know who I am, it's your girl, Christina, your homie, your sister. Welcome to the podcast today. Now, y'all,
Yes.
I hope y'all doing good because we've been checking in and we always check in. If y'all don't know, that's what we do at the beginning of every podcast. So we want to make sure you guys are taking care of yourselves. So if you haven't yet, ask yourself a quick self-care question right now. Whatever it is in your mind, ask yourself that question. And if it's a yes, you definitely been taking care of you, sis. Okay. Now, if you are ready for this topic, I'm going to tell you just pull up your seat, get your snacks, and be ready for this one because this one's about to be real. Today's topic, we are talking about mental health and the stigma in the Black community. It's real. This is going to be a loaded one, y'all. So we're going to try to get through it. Whew, girl, are you ready?
I am. I'm not ready, but this is a conversation that needs to be had, so I'm better get ready.
Yes, we definitely need to have the conversation. There's so many stigmas out there with mental health. And girl, would you I'm gonna hand it over to you and let you touch on it first because I wouldn't even know where to start. I'm gonna be real with you.
Like you said, it's a loaded topic because, first of all, in our community, we don't even know how to have this conversation, right? Like we don't even. Mental health isn't a conversation that we really discuss enough, and I feel like it's something that's important and it's very much overlooked. We go through a lot of things. We talked about traumas and things like that in our podcast before, you know what I mean? So just being able to identify, certain things, it's helpful and conducive for our mental health, right? So without addressing certain problems, we just ups and downs and not really know how to deal with them. So just focusing in on your mental health, you really just need to know, where the issues lie and address those issues.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the first thing we need to understand that the conversation does need to happen. We need to be able to address what it is, if there is a mental health issue. And I think a lot of us realize when we look back on like family members that we realize maybe they did have a mental illness, and we didn't realize it. And if we were having the conversation, then maybe we will be able to get more help within the Black community amongst those who are facing mental health illnesses. And it's real. Mental health is real. I think the first thing that Black people need to, the very first thing that Black people need to understand is that mental health exists. It exists and is real. And it is affecting people every single day. I think that's the first biggest stigma. We don't think that mental health exists, and it really does. Yeah. And what we need to do is really increase awareness of mental health and mental care, and realize that there are a lot of resources out there that you can have access to help you. Just because you have a mental health illness, it doesn't mean that you're weak. Because I think that's a huge thing within the and Black community. It's like, well, if you got mental health issues, you are just this weak person. And I think it also aligns with, they're going to take you away. With a lot of parents, don't go and act crazy because they're going to put you on the 18th floor and they might take you away from me, And sometimes, Jen, I think when it comes to the Black community, when a child is like, in a sense, misbehaving or something, they're quick to send them away. Like, I'm going to send you to your aunt in West Bubblefuck, right?
Yes, that's very true. Or even in other communities, they give them medications, right? They prescribe you all kinds of medications and then in X's. And, some of them that we can't even pronounce, like instead of just addressing the underlying issues as to what the mental health problem is and how to fix those issues, we either just write it off, like you said, just send the child away, let someone else handle that issue, or we overly medicate them, and then they become dependent on these substances, and they just don't even know the proper coping mechanisms to deal with the mental health issues. So there's so many different ways that we already are handling mental health issues, which is not the proper way. I think it's a issue that we need to really definitely dig deeper and have an ultimate underlying conversation about what the issues are to really address it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that we have to change the culture in the Black community of what mental health is. The culture around mental health has to change in order for it to be effective. Because it's crazy, Jen. You just talked about the fact that they drug their kids up and give them things, but in one situation, we're not even dealing with the mental health situation, and here we are building another situation because that child can also become an addict, a substance abuse abuser.
Exactly.
I mean, now you're a person of substance abuse. So here we are building another social problem here in the Black community amongst our children, amongst our future children. So I definitely think that once we start to attack the culture narrative of mental health in the Black community, there'll definitely be some change. Like, for one, I think that we think that like we can't afford mental health. And that's not true. There's so many resources, or that, real facts, Jen, we were taught to like not talk about our problems, to hide it. And if we really started to talk more about where we feel, and even if our parents used to tell us like, oh, don't talk your business because you go out there and talk your business, people going to be all up in our family business, and what happens at home is supposed to stay at home, right? But even if it had to stay at home, I think it would be great if I could at least have that conversation with my mom or my dad or my aunt. If we're going to keep it within the family, can we at least talk about it instead of burying it?
Some people just don't know how to have that conversation. I mean, we talked about before when things, trauma or toxic things just becomes a normal. I feel like, especially in our community, we're both Black women, so we can both relate to what we go through as Black women. So in our community, when we go through certain things constantly, it just becomes our new normal to the point where we don't even think it's an issue that we need to address. It's just something regular. Right. So, and that's not, mental health is an issue that we need to address. It's a problem in its own.
Right.
But once we take out of the normal, take the normal out of all of the stuff that we need to really heal from and really start to identify like, okay, this isn't normal. This is just what I made normal because this is what I'm accustomed to. Like once we really start to identify what's not supposed to be normal, things that need to be, fixed or addressed. And like you said, we just need to find that person that we find that comfort in, that we could really confide in and talk about it. But keeping it to ourselves is the most unhealthy thing that we can do because we're really not growing and we're not doing anything beneficial for ourselves by keeping that information to ourselves. Right. But it's crazy because we can't really expect to know how to have that conversation of mental health when it's not something that we were taught. Like, your mom, like you said, she probably, wouldn't know how to address that conversation of mental health because she grew up in Jamaica. Like that's a whole different culture and background. And mental health there, for sure, it's not an issue. You know what I mean? That's not even a topic to discuss because there's so many other things that, I'm sure she had to deal with growing up in Jamaica, and even being here in America, transitioning. So that's something that we need to normalize. Let's normalize working on our mental health. Once that becomes the new normal, then we'll be able to start creating our new normal around that, because we don't know what it is. Like, I don't know what addressing mental health really looks like for me per se, because I haven't had a clear example up until now when I'm an adult and I understand what mental health is, why it's important. Got to the point where I understood my traumas. Now being as an adult, I'm able to identify more so and really realize how important my mental health is, right? But it shouldn't take us going through all of the crap that we have to go through to really start addressing how important the mental health problem is in our community.
I agree. I totally agree. I think that we're realizing more that it's such a huge issue in our community because it's not only just within the Black community, it's a global issue now. The idea that we've been ignoring as people, just society itself, ignoring mental health for so long. And we're realizing that there's so many pressures of life that's causing people to kill themselves. There's so many pressures of life that's causing people to isolate themselves, causing people to just literally just not be happy, right? And I think that there are a lot of huge things in society that's changing. For instance, like the LGBTQT and whatever else needs to be added on, because I don't know it all. There's so much more, but I think because of the LGBTQT, girl, it's a lot. But because of that community of people, I think that they open up doors for us to be woke about a lot of other things. I'm not gonna lie to you. And I think when it came to, I think one thing with the LGBTQT community is that they're all about knowing who they are, identifying with who they are as people, and being able to accept it, right? And being able to be into the community and be into society. And we realized that the mental health of it was so important, and how much it was affecting people who transition, people who want to come out to their parents and can't, like it becomes so traumatizing, right? For these people. I'm going to say these people, that sounds wrong. It becomes traumatizing for that community, right? That we realize like, oh, mental health is huge, because at this point, people can want to ignore it as much as we want, but the LGBTQ community is here to stay, and there's nothing you can do about it. You get what I'm saying? There's nothing you could do about it. You got to accept it, and this is what it is, right? So I definitely I really want us to understand that the mental health aspect of everything, all these stigmas in the Black community, everything about it, we have to get to a point where we're open to accept it. Okay. We have to be open to accept it. And we have to be able to ignore these random stigmas that you can't afford mental health care, and that it's not available to you if you're in a lower income home, or that your children are going to be taken away because you're Black, and it shows that you're not a good enough parent. Or even if you have, as a parent, have a mental health issue, that you're incapable of taking care of your kids. You understand? All these stigmas, no, it's not true. It's really not true. And we have to be able to come out of that zone that this, and what's crazy, Jen? I really think that the Black community needs to be educated. They have to be educated. We have to educate each other on mental health. And I'm going to be real with you. A lot of Black people, they trust their church. They trust their church, and they trust the people in their church. But I'm going to be real with you. The people in your church are not equipped to help with a mental health illness. They're not.
And it can affect anybody. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a God-fearing person, if you're, an atheist, if you're white, if you're rich, if you're homeless, it doesn't matter. Mental health would affect anybody if you're vulnerable enough in a vulnerable enough space where you don't really have everything aligned. So, once you really start to address the situation or align yourself, I think it's just something that we all need to focus on in the people, and maybe even more so empathize with other people, right? If you see someone going through their issues, like not just be so quick to judge or, talk bad or what have you, just understanding that everybody has different circumstances, and just empathize with people, because we're all human. We all face different things in life, and you just don't know what kind of impact you can have on a person. Like I remember one time I went out with I went food shopping. This was when I was living in Boston, and I was with an elder, and we were food shopping on the grocery line, and she saw a woman in front of her that she had maybe 2 items. It wasn't a big deal. So but she had her son with her as well. So she seemed frantic and what have you. So the woman that I was with, the elder, she let the younger woman go in front of her, right? Not thinking anything of it, only because she had 2 items and we had a whole cart full of things. She just let her go on in front. But the woman, she just showed so much gratitude. Like she was like flabbergasted. Oh my God, thank you so much. Like, who knows what she could have been going through in that moment that she needed to spare that extra time. Cause we could have been in there spending, 10 minutes bringing up all her things. So she could have been in a rush going somewhere or, what have you. But just the mere fact that a small gesture, like letting her go in front of us to bring her grocery list, how big of an impact it might have made on her day in that moment. who knows where her mental health could have been at that stage for her to be so grateful for something so small. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it just makes you really open your eyes and really show gratitude for what you do have, because there's always somebody that's going through something worse. But for you to just have the life that you're living, it's a blessing. It's
I
definitely a
agree.
blessing. And the things that we go through in life, no matter how hard it may be, it's just trials and tribulations that we go through. But it does ultimately affect our psyche if we don't handle it effectively, right? So addressing the fact that mental health is a really big issue, and you won't always see signs of when a person's in mental health and
Very
breakdown.
true.
A person
Mhm.
can appear so happy. They can appear, regular, like everything's fine, but go home and break down because, that's where they
Mhm.
feel comfortable to be vulnerable like that.
Mhm.
I think it's really important for us to just really just embrace that we're all human. We need to empathize with each other and understand that we all go through things, different trials in life. And once we're understanding of that, we're able to, I guess, just make an impact for anybody else who is probably going through a mental breakdown, right?
Mhm. Yeah. I think that I like that you touched on being able to identify it, because we might not always know what it looks like. Um, but I think a cry for help is always clear. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Um, I would say that um, you have to pay attention to behaviors.
Yeah.
So even if you are concerned, I think that you should um, definitely follow through with that concern. Like, oh, I see. I, I know someone personally who's close to me that suddenly was happy and happy go lucky, and then all of a sudden locked themselves in their room for days. That's a clear sign for me. I had
Hmm.
to approach that person like, hey, what is going on? You know, I was concerned. I don't know if this person is depressed, but from what I know, being educated in mental health, I that looks like a cry for help to me.
Hmm.
Something what happened. So at that time, I had to take time to really think about a chain of events that occurred that could have led to being locked away in the room for days. Because you don't just lock yourself in a room.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like, so I think,
That's a key thing too. The fact that you're aware is important because you're able to
mhm,
see signs. Maybe because you've even gone through it yourself, so you're able to identify within yourself.
mhm,
Okay, this isn't normal. Let me just check in on the person. And that's what a person needs
mhm,
sometimes. Like, you just don't even know the kind of impact that you could have had on that person, because they probably don't feel comfortable to just express what they're going through openly, right? So the fact that you
right.
even paying attention enough to notice that they're acting different or behaving or moving different, it's a big thing. But for you to
Mhm,
really step up and ask them, like, okay, what's going on? Like, is everything okay? You know what I mean? People do need that because we all get to a vulnerable place in our lives where our mental health isn't as strong as it needs to be. But we do need to
yes.
be the support that we need. You know what I mean? Because I know I can say I'm as strong as I want to be, right?
Right,
But it
right.
doesn't matter how strong I say I am. Even when I'm going through my breakdown, I still need someone, you know what I mean, that I could talk to help me guide me through the situation that I'm going through, even to just listen to me vent, right? Because we all just need that support, to be able to carry on in life. I think that that's the most important thing. So you just being that support for that person probably was a big thing for them.
Yeah. Jen, I think I definitely wanted to hit the fact that Black people have never trust doctors. They
Yeah.
don't trust doctors. They don't trust them and that's just in the line of history with the Tuskegee Project, and just Black people don't trust doctors, and that's
Yeah.
why a lot of Black people suffer from a lot of illnesses because they don't believe in going to the doctor, or they think, oh, just pass, and but
Yeah.
a lot of they don't trust doctors. So to go and talk to a doctor, and to go talk to a therapist who they consider, of course, of medical field, and to express what they're feeling and tell all of their business, it is out of the norm for them. It throws them off. They're like, what is this? I'm not doing this. I was not raised to talk about this stuff. I need to keep it to myself. I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
just go talk to some stranger. And let's be
Mm-hmm.
real, it's not just a Black thing, but of course we're talking about the Black community. A lot of people don't believe in therapy. They don't believe in sitting down and talking about the way they feel because they think that, excuse me, they don't think that it is a healing mechanism to heal from brokenness and move forward, and not even just, and even with mental health, because the thing with mental health is that it needs to be maintained. And let's just be real, you have to be able to maintain your mental health, and therapy is one of those things to do that, you know. And we don't understand how to keep the maintenance. It's not just about talking and, oh my god, talk, but it's about getting clarity. And I myself have been in therapy. I'm not in individual therapy right now, but I am in couples therapy as I continue to do it. But I'm actually considering going back to individualized therapy for myself. You don't have to have a mental illness to go to therapy. Can we be real? Can we really be real for a second, Jen?
That's true.
You
It's
don't
kind
have
of one of those things where you like, imagine if you're talking to someone and you kind of learn something about yourself through that person and you have an aha moment.
Yes.
Sometimes you just need that, just to talk to someone that's outside of the circumstance that you're in, just to listen to you, so that way you can really gain insight on yourself ultimately.
Right. And that's what therapy is, you know. Therapy is not someone judging you, because a lot of people think that too, like the therapist is judging you or to tell you what to do. It's really about giving you clarity on what you're feeling and thinking, because you don't realize sometimes in your mind everything is scattered, so you don't know how to come to the conclusion of certain things, right? And some of us are strong enough to come to conclusions, and some of us aren't, you know. But a therapist helps with that, really recognizes some things. And listen, when I go back to therapy, guys, ladies, when I go back to therapy, I'm going to share it with you guys, because there are some things that I know that I would love to work on within myself. I don't think well, I don't know if I'm being in denial, but I don't think there's anything that I need to heal with. But who knows? Once we start talking and having conversations, I might not even realize that something has traumatized me and is still traumatizing me till this day, and I haven't healed from it. So, but
you'd be surprised, because in those situations, sometimes we push those traumas so far back in our psyche that we don't even think about it. Like when I talked about my trauma, a lot of that time frame, I don't even remember, because I tried to block off that whole situation. But of course, you know, it's only so many things that you can block off. So certain things for me triggers memories. But like you said, the only way you'll really know is to really go through the experience and learn. But all of us have different things that we've experienced, which is traumatic, that we need to heal through. But the fact that you're actually going to therapy and talking to someone professional about it, it's a big thing. Girl, I tried to go see a therapist one time, and she wasn't a Black therapist. She was Indian, and she was very sweet, very nice, but it was just the worst experience for me, that I kind of just like, I if I don't get a Black therapist, then I don't want to do it, because like it just wasn't even worth the time. Basically, the woman just like dismissed all the things that I told her and gave me, like, you know, the easy answer. Like, it was just ridiculous. I was telling her about things that I was going through, you know, when the pandemic first hit and all this stuff. And her advice to me was to move out. And I was confused.
And go where during a pandemic?
Right. This is when everything had just shut down. And I was just like, you know what? I said, yeah, I'm done talking. Like, and then I tried to go see her again months later, you know, after the pandemic kind of died down a little bit, things started opening back up. So we did like it was when the pandemic first hit, we were doing virtual. Right. We did a virtual meeting. And then when it opened back up, I went to the actual facility and sat down with her. Basically went over the things that, you know, we talked about during the first session, and when my progress was to where I was at that point. And what she said to me, she was like, oh, well, you know, you look great. You sound great. She was like, I don't see and I was just like, okay.
She was collecting a check. She was not invested in you.
I wasn't. Really she wasn't. And I was just ready to go at that point. I said, you know what? This conversation is not going anywhere. At this point, I could just be at work. So like, I just was completely turned off from the whole idea of therapy from that moment, because it was just like a bad experience. It wasn't traumatic because, I will go back, but it was just a bad experience for me because, I really went out of my comfort zone, because that's the issue with Black people going and seeking counseling or therapy. We're stepping out of a comfort zone, to even talk about our issues, and for it to be like dismissed the way it was, that's kind of like, that's one of the reasons why people don't want to go to a therapist, right? Because you want to feel like your value, what you're saying is valued. And for me to sit here and disclose real problems that I was going through and to dismiss it, as if it was just like nothing, or, as if my appearance in that moment, made everything seem to be like my life was okay. It just wasn't, but
Right.
I think that's an important thing for you to keep going forward with. I would definitely revisit the idea of going to a therapist. It would have to be a therapist that I really feel like hears me, so that I really feel like it's more effective. But, just to be in that vulnerable space, I commend anybody that, is at that place of healing where they can actually talk their problems through with a professional and gain more understanding about, where they're at in their lives.
Girl, I hate that you had that first experience, because I think a lot of people had that first experience. And let's be real, a lot of people that walk into the room are automatically, their mind's already made up about it. They're like, oh, this is not going to be for me. And to go in and then have that experience, you're like, oh, this is really not for me.
Exactly.
So I hope that you definitely revisit it and go back. It's really amazing. It's amazing. I love it. And it took me going for my relationship for me to understand that I needed it for myself. And I'll definitely continue to do it once I get that bomb insurance, because that out of pocket pay, though.
Yeah, it's no joke.
Depending on the therapist, though, you get what I'm saying? But there was a specific therapist I wanted, and she didn't accept my insurance, but I wanted to work with her, so I paid. I just
Girl,
paid.
at this point, for therapy for me, I would just say I haven't gone to a therapist since that situation, but therapy for me has been Iyanla Vanzant. Girl, I'll tell you about Iyanla all the time.
Did you know that she's not licensed?
She's not. She's
not a licensed.
She's a life coach. She's not a therapist.
But ain't nothing wrong with a life coach. Let's be real. I know some really good life coaches.
After a while, she does bring on licensed therapists to help her through the program to help heal the people that she's dealing with. But she has, just because she's talking through her experiences, right? And what she's saying, it definitely hits home for me in a lot of different areas. As I watched through all her seasons, I've seen like every episode, girl. And it really made me open my eyes to a whole lot of different things that I never even thought about, as far as like the healing process. We talked before about, me having to forgive a person that had, taken advantage of me when I was younger. I learned that through her. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just to be able to come out of my shoes in that moment and just learn from her experiences or how she's guiding these other families to healing. It really helped me to understand my dynamic, my family dynamic, because she focuses on not just the individual, but the family pathology, right? She focuses on the whole family dynamic, to the point where she would even go deep into the family, the parents' traumas, because even our parents experience trauma, in their lifetime. So just being able to understand the pathology and the different circumstances that we all go through in our families, it made me really understand the importance of healing, the steps that I needed to take to get to the point that I am at now in my healing process. And like you said, it's always a growing and learning process. And, you know, it's just, you got to keep going with it. Keep working on yourself as you continue to grow with life, and just continue to be who you are, right? You can't go on and afford to be anybody else. You just got to live in your truth.
I agree. You got to live in your truth. Y'all, I think we said it, like, get on this therapy. But girl, I wanted to definitely thank you for sharing that part, Jen. And I like that you were able to utilize what's her name?
Iyanla Vanzant.
I've never ever watched an episode, but
girl, that will make you cry, girl.
Really? You know what? I'm gonna give her a chance. I'm gonna go watch it. But the fact that you were able to utilize the tools that she used with the people that she worked with on the show for yourself shows the growth. And it takes real it wasn't for you, it wasn't entertainment. For you took notes and used it in your life. So that's real. That's
Yeah.
real. And some people sit there and they're like, oh, that's crazy. But you are like, nah, I can identify with this. So
Yeah.
I really love that. And I hope that the other people on the end of receiving that show can do the same. That's deep, Jen. I commend you for that. Cheers. I give you a pat on the back, but I'm going to give you a high five. That was
Oh, yeah,
awesome.
girl.
But girl, can we really talk about the fact that I want to talk about the fact that there are just weird beliefs and stigmas within the stigmas of mental health. And I wanted to go back because I was talking about the church because I think that's a big factor for me. But I wanted to talk about the beliefs about like a mental health issue being just like fake, or it's just you acting out, or it's that you don't have enough
Being
faith.
rebellious. Yeah.
Yeah, or that you're weak, like you have weak you're a weak person, or you have personal weakness, or that you lack character, like just those type of things that when I wanted to go back to the church because the church would see it as, oh, you have spiritual weakness, right? Some will see it as that you're you're personally just a weak individual and you can't handle life. And I've been one of those people that will look at someone and go like, you're just weak. You need to just toughen up, get some tough skin and go deal with life because life is here, right? Which is unfair, but some people do need it. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. And then just to talk about the lack of character defect. I mean, like, we look at it like that all the time. And I think we don't see all of these as mental health issues, right? But we throw out these fake identities of mental health, right? Oh, you're just spiritually weak. The church is quick to pray away, okay? Quick to pray away mental health and be throwing tongues and all types of foolishness on you. Now, I'm not saying I think that they should tie together, right? I think that the church and the mental health community should tie together because I think that faith does help someone go far. And I definitely think going through a mental health professional and having them help you is also another thing. Because let's be real, people go to who they're familiar with when it comes to talking about something. So if the pastor is on the end receiving that conversation, I think the conversation should happen where the pastor is being able to listen, trust in the person, and then refer the person to a mental health professional. Right? And go, you know what? I have someone here that I really trust, and that's part of our church community. And I've been working with this person for so long. Here's their information. I'm going to get in contact with them. So what the pastor does is open the door, right? For that person who might be afraid to talk to a stranger, because that's what they take it as. I ain't gonna just talk to some stranger that I don't know about my life. So the pastor would open the door for that person, kick it down. You get what I'm saying? Kick it down and give them the opportunity to say, let's have the conversation. Even if the pastor is in on the first session and introducing, you get what I'm saying? Introducing them to that therapist where we can kind of open up the door there and get the person comfortable. Because what the main issue is that we just don't trust people. Right? Let's be real. When you went to that therapist, you ain't trust shorty. She already gave you bad vibes. You're like, here, she's actually not listening to anything that I'm talking to her about. Yeah. So I really want to talk about the fact that we can't pray it away. We can pray and ask God to help us, but at the same time, we have to do the work. And I think part of going to therapy and talking through things is the work part, right? Yes, it's very important. Doing the work and praying, God, give me the strength to go to therapy, to talk through these things that's been hurting me from some time. Give me the strength to heal. Give me the strength to see things. Excuse me. Give me the strength to see things clearly, God. Give me the strength to be able to really break down these barriers. This is the conversation that you should be having with God, right?
Yeah.
God, give me the strength to heal. I need strength to heal, to break down barriers, to not be the person to condemn myself, but to give myself grace. God, give me the strength. Forgive me for not being able to forgive people in that situation, because when you're going through mental health problems, you also need to forgive the people who you are surrounded by, right? The people who you think might have hurt you, but you can't forgive them to heal, you know? So I think prayer is important. It's very important. And I don't think having a mental health issue makes you weak. It doesn't
Not
make
at
you a
all.
weak individual at all.
Not at all.
Okay.
Everybody goes through a point in time where they are vulnerable. They are quote unquote weak. You know what I mean? So if that's the case, we all are weak because we all experience something at some point in time or another. It's just
Right.
important for you to just understand that, being vulnerable does not make you weak. Having a mental health issue or any kind of issues does not make you weak. It just makes you human, because we all go through different things in life. Right. And as far as the
Mm-hmm.
church is concerned, I feel like what you said exactly is the nail on the head. Like I wouldn't say we, because I'm not a avid churchgoer, but I do believe and I do understand. I used to, girl, we used to be in church
Yeah.
together. But the thing about going to church, like, they just want you to give all of the problems to God. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, you can't just put everything in God's hand. You got to put in the work on your end as well and have
Yes.
faith that God will align things for you. So for you
Mm-hmm.
to even you're right. Absolutely. I feel like there should be a plug-in where you're just aligning these people to a professional that'll be able to really guide them in the direction that they
Right.
need.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, that's something that the church would have to address, because I don't know.
Yeah, because they totally don't believe in
They
mental health.
dismissed it altogether.
Yes.
Yeah,
A
it's
lot of the churches are like that, but it's changing. At the end of the day, the culture is changing. They don't have a choice.
It's like,
And
how can you not, like, how could you, all the things that we go through in life, period, in our community, with police brutality, with coronavirus, like,
yes,
how could you
yes.
not think that mental health? We were quarantined for a month. Well,
In
most people.
isolation for
Isolation for
months.
months. Like, most
Yes.
people didn't have any kind of source of income for months. Like, that
Yeah.
would cause mental health issues for the most
Mm-hmm.
sane person. Even if you are a millionaire, if you're rich, just being quarantined in that house
Yeah.
would have an effect on your mental health. So for you to
Yep.
say, or for anybody to believe that that's not an issue, it's just not a thing. Maybe it is
Can I
not an issue
be,
for you right now, but it's an issue for somebody somewhere.
if I could be real with you, I think that coronavirus opened up the church's eyes
Mm,
to mental health
yeah.
and where it took a lot of their members. Trust me, girl. Coronavirus, definitely. The fact that the moment I logged into my insurance to pay the bill and it was like mental health sessions free.
Mm,
Free, girl. The biggest issue with suicide is isolation.
mm-hmm.
Isolation. Once you're isolated, I'm telling you, girl. And COVID had people in places where they didn't need to be. When you got people who have their abusers at home and we're stuck with them. You get what I'm saying? You're stuck with your abuser.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine,
Mm.
what can the church do about that? But they realize,
They
hey,
say,
this is
oh,
real.
leave it in God's hands. Pray about
Yeah,
it.
let's pray about it. Continue to get beat down.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, and this is why I'm not trying to go in on the church. I'm not. That's not my goal, because there are people out there who are really advocating for mental health. But I can pray about something. There are women who are in domestic violence relationships and then they tell them for better, for worse. You can't tell somebody that. You get what I'm saying? That's just crazy. That's crazy.
Like, this is the worst. Okay.
Right.
This is the worst that I'm going to deal with. And now it's going to get better.
And can I be real with you? I think the church has contributed to a lot of the stigmas in the Black community for mental health.
Yeah.
I think they planted a lot of those stigmas in the Black community. Because if we be real, a lot of the people in the Black community lean on their church. A lot of them lean on their church, and the church has been planting that out there for a very long time. And
Yeah.
that's why Black people have so many stigmas. The church has contributed to it. I'm gonna be real.
Yeah.
But I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming the church alone. I'm just being real with y'all. Okay.
We just misguided, y'all. We got to get back on track. We all do. So
Yes, we do. And like Jen said, okay. Whoa. Whoa. The way I see us breaking down this stigma is one, educating ourselves. We have to educate each other in our community about mental health. And what does that look like? I think it looks like sharing your story. Where you tell another, I do go to therapy and it's been the most amazing thing ever. Start sharing your story. Start sharing that you do have a mental health illness. I'm sure some of us had some great, great, great aunts that was crazy. And we was just like, she just crazy when she probably had bipolar disorder.
That part, girl, and that's so true, especially in the Black community. We are so quick to just say, "Oh yeah, nah, she's just crazy." Mm-hmm. No, she's suffering from some stuff, and probably doesn't even know it. Probably doesn't even know that she's like depressed or who knows? Like, it's so many different things, but calling somebody crazy is just not. It's not okay. I've experienced that myself, so I know that is so true.
Yes. And two, like Jen said, is normalizing that there are mental health issues. We have to normalize that. Yeah. Okay. And normalizing it and educating yourself is definitely a way to break down this stigma, right? Definitely promoting mental health treatment. And it can be therapy, it could be medication, definitely being aware of it, right? It's just, I think the other thing we have to realize is that we can't be shameful about having mental health. That's one huge stigma in the Black community that we have to realize. You can't be shameful about it. If you need treatment, you need treatment. If you need to go to therapy, that's fine. You're not any less of a person because you get therapy. Right. Okay? It's just not.
Right.
Okay.
Or you're not any better of a person for you to sit here and claim that you've never had any mental health issues.
Right.
We all have.
I totally agree.
We all have. You skidded your knee when you were 2 years old. Now you don't want to ride a bike anymore. That's trauma. That's affecting your mental health. So you need to really evaluate that and focus on you and go forward.
Okay. Yes, I totally agree. Listen, y'all, this was a great podcast episode. We have an event coming up and we will be doing Mental Health Awareness Month. Women of Empowerment will be doing it. And we'll be going live every single Monday in the month of May. Okay. You can check out Woe Inc. at WOEINC on Instagram and on Facebook. We're going live every Monday with women who are mental health counselors. And we're going to be talking about some really fun topics. So we hope that you guys could definitely get live with us and be able to have the conversation. Follow our page. And listen, we just love y'all. Show us some love. We show you some love. And let's keep it going. All right. Now, don't forget to tap into your purpose. Send your purpose chaser letters and comment below. Let us know what you like. Give us 5 stars. Let us know what you want to talk about. Jen, it was fun. It was a pleasure, girl. Always. Ladies, we love y'all. See you guys next week. Deuces.